If I told you that you could download the 30 years of failures, breakthroughs, and hard-won secrets of a billionaire into your brain in less than 6 hours for the price of a lunch, would you call that a bargain or a miracle? Most people see a book as a collection of paper and ink, a chore left over from a school system that bored them to tears. But the architect sees a book as a software patch for the mind. While the average person spends their commute listening to the noise of the world, the top 1% are busy installing the operating systems of the greatest thinkers in history. They aren't reading for leisure. They are reading for lethality. They are building an intellectual moat that no competitor can cross. Today, we decode the reading habits of the masters, and we find out why a book a week is the minimum entry fee for the life you want. If you are still reading for entertainment while the world is moving at the speed of algorithms, you are already obsolete. It's time to reboot your intake. The penthouse was quiet, but it wasn't the silence of emptiness. It was the silence of a high-speed processor running at maximum capacity. Ilya sat in the leather chair of the mentor's private study, surrounded by walls of books that seemed to hum with the collective intelligence of centuries. The scent of old paper and expensive leather filled the room, a scent Elias had begun to associate with the weight of global influence. He looked at the stack of 3 books the mentor had placed in front of him, one on game theory, one on biological systems, and one on the history of the Medici family. Elias felt a wave of exhaustion. He was already working 14 hours a day. He didn't have the luxury of sitting around and reading. "I don't have time for this," Elias said, his voice echoing slightly in the vast room. "I'm in the middle of a scale-up. I'm managing a team. I'm fighting fires every hour. Reading feels like a distraction from the real work. It feels like a hobby for people who have already made it, not for those of us in the trenches." The mentor, who is currently highlighting a passage in a worn copy of Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, didn't even look up. "That is because you think work is the act of moving things from left to right. You think work is the struggle, the sweat, the long hours, the physical exhaustion. But for the architect, work is decision-making. And your decisions are only as good as the models you use to make them. You are trying to navigate a complex 21st century landscape with a map drawn by someone who never left your hometown. You aren't working too hard, you're thinking too poorly. You are using a blunt axe to chop down a forest, and you're complaining that you don't have time to stop and sharpen the blade. The reading is the sharpening." The mentor stood up and walked to the wall, pulling a biography of Bill Gates from the shelf. Bill Gates famously takes think weeks, 7 days in a secluded cabin with nothing but a bag of books and his own thoughts. He doesn't do this to relax. He doesn't go there to unplug. He goes there to plug into a higher level of reality. He knows that the market is a giant machine that processes information. If you have the same information as everyone else, you get the same results as everyone else. But if you can connect an idea from 15th century Florence to a modern software problem, you have created a unique moat. You are currently a commodity because your thoughts are common. Reading a book a week is how you become a monopoly. It is how you develop categorical hegemony, the ability to see the board in a way your rivals cannot even conceptualize. Think about Warren Buffett, the mentor continued, gesturing to the stack of annual reports in the corner. The man spends 80% of his day reading. When asked for the key to success, he pointed to a pile of books and said, "Read 500 pages like this every day." That's how knowledge works. It builds up like compound interest. You understand compound interest in your bank account, Elias, but you ignore it in your brain. Every book you read is a deposit. After a year, you have 52 new models of reality. After a decade, you have over 500. You start to see patterns where others see chaos. You see the move before the board is even set. While your competitors are reacting to the news, you are predicting the future because you've already read the history. History doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, and the architect is the one who knows the lyrics. Elias picked up the book on game theory, his fingers tracing the spine. But how do you retain it? "I read a page and I forget it by the next morning. It feels like pouring water into a sieve." The mentor leaned over the desk, his eyes piercing, because you are reading like a consumer, not a creator. A consumer reads to finish the book so they can check a box. An architect reads to extract value. You don't read to say you read the book. You read to find the one golden thread that you can weave into your business or your life immediately. Look at Elon Musk. When people ask how he learned to build rockets, his answer is simple: I read books. He didn't just read them, he cross-pollinated them. He took physics, combined it with economics, and layered it with science fiction. He built a mental laboratory. He wasn't looking for facts. He was looking for first principles. He stripped the information down to its bones and rebuilt it. He wasn't trying to pass a test. He was trying to solve a multi-planetary problem. When the stakes are that high, your brain finds a way to retain the information. The poor mindset views a book as a $20 expense, the mentor said, walking toward the window where the city glowed like a circuit board. The rich mindset views a book as a $100,000 investment with an infinite ROI. If you read a book by Naval Ravikant and it saves you 3 years of heading down the wrong career path, what is that worth? If you read Ray Dalio's Principles and it prevents you from making a catastrophic hiring mistake, what is that worth? You are currently paying stupidity tax every single day because you refuse to learn from the mistakes of people who have already bled for you. You think you're being efficient by skipping the reading, but you're actually being the most inefficient person in this city. You are reinventing the wheel while the architect is building a spaceship. You are fighting the same battles the Stoics fought 2,000 years ago, and you're losing because you haven't read their after-action reports. Furthermore, the mentor continued, you must understand the concept of mental models. Most people are specialists. They know one thing deeply but are blind to everything else. This makes them fragile. The architect is a generalist, specialist. They use the latticework approach, championed by Charlie Munger. You need to know the big ideas from the big disciplines: biology, economics, psychology, physics, and history. When you have these models, you can look at a business problem and see it through the lens of evolutionary biology. You can look at a marketing problem and see it through the lens of cognitive bias. This isn't extra work. This is the framework that makes all other work easier. You aren't just gaining knowledge, you are gaining perspective density. You are learning to see the world through the eyes of the masters. When you face a crisis, you don't ask what Elias would do. You ask what Marcus Aurelius or Steve Jobs would do. You have a board of directors in your head that cost you nothing but a library card. The mentor turned back to Elias, his expression hard. The 1% read because they know that life is a game of asymmetric risk. A book is a low-risk, high-reward bet. You spend $10 and 10 hours. And the upside is a life-changing epiphany. Why would you ever stop making that bet? The average person reads less than 1 book a year. By reading 1 a week, you are literally putting yourself 50 years ahead of the average human every single year. You are evolving at a rate that looks like magic to the uninitiated. This is how you build a moat. A moat of capital can be drained. A moat of technology can be disrupted. But a moat of superior judgment and compounded wisdom is impenetrable. Elias looked at the stack of books again, but this time, they didn't look like paper, they looked like weapons. He realized that his busyness was a form of laziness, a way to avoid the hard, quiet work of upgrading his mind. He had been a soldier fighting a war with a wooden stick, while the generals were sitting in tents studying the terrain. I've been trying to win a war with a blunt sword, Elias whispered. The mentor nodded, then sharpened it. Stop being a spectator of other people's success and start being a student of their strategy. Every page is a brick. Every book is a wall. Build your moat, Elias, before the world decides to storm your castle, because in the end, the person with the most models wins, not the person with the most hours. The internal audit you have just witnessed is the dividing line between MHH, who remain perpetual consumers, and those who become the primary architects of their own wealth. Understanding the power of intellectual capital is not a hobby. It is a survival strategy. If you have recognized the ignorance tax you've been paying, know that the path forward requires a relentless commitment to your own mental evolution. The world is filled with people who wait for someone to tell them what to do. But in this circle, we recognize that the answers are already written. You just have to be disciplined enough to find them. If you are ready to continue this metamorphosis and master the remaining blueprints of the global elite, then you belong here. This is Mindset Reboot, and we are dedicated to the total overhaul of your mental operating system. Join the Architect's Circle by subscribing and ensuring your notifications are primed for our next deep dive, where we will uncover the high-performance rituals of the top 0.1%. Success is a choice of perspective, and your next level begins with the very next page. The architect is awake, the library is open, and the foundation of your new reality is being laid. It is time to build.